Bon dia from Tasi Tolu. So this is in West Dili, quite an interesting part of the city. Behind me with that blue roof is where the Pope in 1989 spoke to the masses, and Pope Francis hopefully will be coming to speak to the masses again in September this year. So today I'm going for a walk around the ridgeline. So Tasi Tolu is, Tasi's means sea, Tolu is 3. So it's, there's 3 kind of lakes, and then there's quite a lot of hills to go around the top. So I'm going to go walk along the ridges of those hills and hopefully get some nice views and a nice walk. So let's see how it goes. Close to the beach here is a coconut graveyard, which the goats seem to be enjoying. This is where the climbing starts for today. Those are the steps up to the Pope John Paul II statue. I'm not going to go to the statue because I've been there before. I need to head left rather than right because I'm going to head along the ridges all the way around the lakes over there. Pope statue is up there. It's quite popular on a Sunday morning. A few people are heading up. I'm going to go the other way. First sighting of the 3 Tasi Tolu lakes. So the biggest one's kind of closest to me. There's a bit of a land between the 2, and there's another one behind, and there's another one around to the left. Maps.me is telling me to go up that quite steep slope, so I'll get the poles out and give it a go. Heading up the hillside, so on the right there's a rather flash new resort kind of complex that's being built. Already getting some pretty nice views. So out there is the main airport, and in the distance is Cristo Rey, just at the headland in the far distance. Closer in is the inland port, and then just around to the right here are the Tasi Tolu lakes. Compared with the tracks behind Cristo Rey, this seems fairly straightforward so far, so hopefully that continues. As usual, there is a multitude of paths, so I'm just trying to stay as close to the top of the ridgeline as possible. Following this fence line seems like a good strategy. Grateful for the shade of these eucalypts, but it's still pretty hot out here. This looks more promising in terms of directions, but less promising in terms of shade. In the distance down there is the new Dili port. I've cracked already and got the umbrella out. Scourge of Timor-Leste, plastic bottles, even up here, which is fairly remote, there's still rubbish around. Slightly unexpected, a few locals carrying firewood up the hill. Looking at the map, I'm about 1/3 of the way through. Got a few more ridges to climb. Tasi Tolu Lakes, although today it is Tasi Rua Lakes because there are 2 rather than 3 because it's been raining quite a lot recently. So this is one big lake now, whereas when it's pretty dry along, there's a bit of a roadway along or walkway along the middle between the 2 lakes. And then on the, if I zoom in a bit, you can see the memorial Pope John Paul II. That's where he addressed huge crowds in 1989, and where Pope Francis should be addressing crowds later this year. It's also where the political rallies are held because it's one of the biggest open areas within Dili. And when it's not used for that, it's used for people to practice their scooter and motorbikes. Bit of a dilemma here. There's 2 ways I can go. I go left, which is slightly less far to go, but it looks like it goes to more settlements, which means probably more dogs, or I can go right, which looks a bit more remote, but it's a bit further to walk. So I'll probably go right, I think. Dog, but hopefully it's with those people and they can control it. So I sort of hid in the bushes, and the dog went by with the locals collecting firewood. So it's always a bit stressful walking in Timor. You're never quite sure what's going to come out of the bush at you next. Timor-Leste has such beautiful landscapes. One of my top tips for hiking in Timor-Leste is to always carry some hydrolyte or oralite or electrolytes, whatever they're called, because you will be sweating a lot and need to replenish. So happy to see those clouds. The temperature drop feels like it's dropped about 15 degrees since they came over, and there's a little bit of a breeze. It's so much more enjoyable. Small slip here, so I'll have to be careful getting around. The path is a bit more overgrown around here. I can see why the Dili Saturday Walkers rated this walk as a 9 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. There's quite a lot of hills to climb. There's a bit of shade, but there's still a lot of sun. Lots of firewood. Be quite happy to finish this hike. Just had another dog incident, and probably the closest it feels to coming to heat stroke since I've started hiking in Timor, I've got shade and water and food, but it's just quite hot. I need to get out and get home. Just came across some more dogs, but at least this looks like this road is getting a bit closer to civilization, and hopefully it will start to go downhill at some point soon. I'm hopeful that's all the climbing over with, because I'm going to head down to the river down to the left and then walk along the river and then catch a couple of microlets home. There's the river below, so I've still got a bit of way to go because I've got to get down to the river and then along the river along to that bridge to catch the microlet. Been hiking for about 2 hours 45 now. I drank 3 litres of water including hydrolytes and I'm barely peeing. Quite looking forward to getting to the end. Still, at least the views are pretty good. Looking pretty good to me. I think the should be a main road just around the corner. Home stretch, I hope. Road forked in two, so I thought it'd be safer to follow a few locals. Such a relief to be down here, although the road situation's a bit confusing. Whether I carry along here but a motorbike just came up, or whether I go along down by the river. I think if I go to the river, that's probably the safest option. So yeah, getting close. There's some pretty bad jobs in Timor-Leste, and this has to be Bon dia, Diakalo, one of them. So he's basically just shoveling sand through a wire mesh to get a finer sand aggregate for use in construction, which is pretty hot and hard work in this heat. I was going to walk along to the bridge, but quite a lot of people just seem to be either driving or walking across the river. It's pretty low, so I might just take my shoes off and do that. So I got lucky, and there happened to be a lorry crossing at the same time, so I just asked him nicely and he gave me a lift across the river, so I kept my feet dry. I'm going to finish up here and catch a microlet, I think number 12, and then I can catch number 10 back into town and get home. So I've walked about 11 kilometers in about 3¼ hours. So from the Pope Memorial statue up and over the hills around Tasi Tolu and then down to the river. So it's been, yeah, Timor is, I like an adventure, but Timor is probably pushes me to my physical and mental limits. It was the heat, humidity and the dogs. I mean, actually reflecting back, there was kind of there was one dog with some people walking along, and there was a couple of dogs looking after their houses, so that's kind of fair enough. So it wasn't too bad from that situation. The heat, humidity was pretty full on. I was a bit worried when I was climbing up the hill about heat stroke, but I seem to have survived, and look forward to going back. It's actually a number 13 microlet that goes down here. It's one of the newest routes. Takes me to the bridge, and now I'm going to wander along there a little bit and catch a number 6 back to Villa Verde. So it has been a good walk in the end, for a few moments. I guess some of my reflections are that I probably started too late. I started at 8 o'clock in the morning. 7 o'clock would have been better. It's pretty brutal going up the ridges in the heat, even though there is some shade, but it's still, the sun's pretty full on, particularly on a day like today. The navigation was actually straightforward for once. So Maps.me has an accurate route that you can follow, and just take lots of water, sun lotion, hydrolytes. Hiking poles are useful in a few places, less so in other places, and you can do it as a full loop. So I got number 10 microlet to the Pope Memorial, walked up to the Pope statue, and then did the full circuit round, number 13, and then like a number 6 back, or I could have gone a bit further and caught a number at a 10 or 3. So there's definitely lots of options to do this by public transport, and it's a really good loop walk if you're up for a bit of an adventure.